the sound of crashing waves mixed with laughter as the crew hauled cameras and crates onto the beach. It felt like just another massive MrBeast challenge, until the first camera went missing. "Where's the rig? I swear it was right here," one of the crew shouted, scanning the sand. Everyone laughed at first, brushing it off as exhaustion or clumsiness. Jimmy shook his head with a grin. "Guys, relax. Someone misplaced it. We've got backups." But the cameraman's hands trembled. "No, I left it on the tripod. I turned away for 10 seconds and..." His voice cracked. The island was beautiful in daylight, palm trees swaying, the horizon endless. But there was something heavy in the air, as though the place was listening. A local fisherman who had ferried them in muttered earlier, "This island doesn't welcome outsiders at night." The words replayed in their minds, suddenly less amusing. The day passed with forced cheer, everyone pretending nothing was wrong. Yet by evening, the unease spread like a quiet infection. Crew members checked their gear twice, avoiding the tree line where the shadows deepened unnaturally fast. Near midnight, a shout went up. On the edge of the tide, half buried in wet sand, the missing camera lay abandoned. Its lens was cracked, grains of salt water dripping down its glass. The red recording light was still blinking. The night was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to the skin and made every sound sharper. Around 2 a.m., one of the crew jolted awake. At first, he thought it was a dream, but then he heard it clearly. A whisper just outside the thin fabric of his tent. "Leave. Now." His breath caught in his throat. He froze, listening, praying it was one of the guys pulling a prank. The whispers shifted, this time softer, sliding like a hiss through the dark. He unzipped the tent with shaking fingers, shining his flashlight into the trees. Nothing but swaying leaves. Behind him, Carl stirred. "What are you doing, man?" "I heard something," he whispered back, eyes wide. Chandler groaned from another tent. "It's just the wind. Go back to sleep." The crewman's voice shook. "The wind doesn't say my name." That made everyone pause. Even in the dark, the silence felt heavier than before. A beam of light cut across the sand, flickering like a dying bulb, before sputtering out completely. Then it came, the scream. A raw, jagged cry that split the night, echoing from the forest's edge. The crew scrambled out of their tents, flashlights jerking wildly, calling out the missing man's name. No answer. Only the restless sound of waves and the dark mouth of the forest waiting. By morning, the mood had shifted from uneasy laughter to quiet dread. The missing crewman had not returned, and no one dared venture into the trees after the scream. When the fishermen arrived with supplies, their eyes darted nervously toward the shore, but their feet refused to touch the sand. One older man spat into the water and muttered, "The forest takes what it wants. Leave before nightfall." Jimmy forced a smile, though his voice carried a strain. "It's just a story. We'll finish filming, then we're gone." He clapped his hands together, rallying the crew, but the usual energy wasn't there. A younger fisherman lingered, lowering his voice. "Every few decades, strangers vanish here. Some say the island doesn't like outsiders disturbing it. If you stay tonight, it will choose again." The words hung like smoke. Carl shifted uneasily, whispering, "What if that scream wasn't a prank? What if he's gone?" Chandler snapped back, "Stop feeding it. This is just fear talking." The crew argued in circles, split between finishing the project and leaving immediately. By dusk, the sun dipped too quickly, shadows crawling across the camp. Then, without Every torch sputtered out at once, drowning the beach in absolute blackness. Someone whispered in the dark. Who turned them off? No one answered. The darkness pressed in so thick it felt alive. Desperate to find their missing teammate, one crewman grabbed a flashlight and slipped into the trees. The others argued behind him, their voices muffled by the roar of insects and rustling leaves. His walkie-talkie crackled suddenly, static hissing before a warped voice slid through. Turn back. He froze. Who said that? Carl, is that you? Silence answered. Branches snapped somewhere deeper inside. He swung the light, but it only caught the endless stretch of trees. His breathing quickened. Back at camp, Jimmy barked orders. We split into pairs. No one goes alone. Stay on comms. But the forest seemed to swallow their signals. A cameraman's voice buzzed through the radio, panicked and uneven. I think someone's right behind me. Then a crash. The sound of the radio dropping. Static. Nothing else. The surge turned frantic, beams of light slicing through the dark. Every shadow looked like it moved, every gust like a whisper. Carl shouted his friend's name, voice cracking, but only the forest answered. Then Chandler stumbled over something half buried in the mud. His flashlight trembled as it revealed a shoe sunken into the earth. He picked it up with shaking hands, still warm. The forest around them went silent, as if it was holding its breath. The scream tore through the night, sharp and agonized, echoing from somewhere deep in the forest. Every head snapped toward the sound. Carl's face drained of color. That was Chris. I swear to God, that was Chris. He sprinted forward, but Jimmy grabbed his arm. Wait, you don't know what's out there. Another scream answered, closer this time, desperate, broken. The crew's flashlights bobbed as they stumbled after the noise, hearts pounding. But each time they thought they were near, the voice shifted, drifting from a different direction. It was as if the forest itself was throwing it back at them. Chandler's breath came in ragged bursts. What if it's not him? What if something wants us to follow? No one replied, because deep down, the thought had already lodged in their minds. Branches snapped overhead, something large moving just beyond the light. The crew clustered together, shouting Chris's name, fear edging into anger. This isn't funny, one cameraman yelled, voice trembling. Suddenly, a beam of light caught movement between the trees. A figure, pale and silent, slipping out of sight. They rushed to the spot, cameras rolling, adrenaline surging. Later, huddled together, they played the footage back, frame by frame. Their breath faltered as the image froze on the shape in the trees. It wasn't Chris. It wasn't anyone they knew. The thing staring back at the camera had no face at all. A camera lay half buried in the dirt, its red light still blinking. One of the crew picked it up with trembling hands, brushing off the mud. It's still recording, he whispered. They gathered in a tight circle as Jimmy pressed play. The shaky footage sprang to life, night vision green painting terrified faces. The missing cameraman was running, his breath ragged, lens whipping between trees. Branches snapped behind him, something following too fast, too heavy to be human. Keep moving, please keep moving. His voice cracked through the tiny speaker. The crew watched in silence, hearts thundering as the man tripped, the camera tumbling sideways. For a split second, a shape lunged into view, long limbs, featureless face, before dragging him into the black. His screams cut off. Someone shut their eyes, muttering, "No, no, no." Another hissed, "We can't stay here. We need to go now." Jimmy's voice was barely a whisper. "If people see this, no one will believe it." The generator powering their lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. The camp was swallowed by darkness. On the screen, the last frame froze. The cameraman's terrified face, lens tilted upward. Just behind him, dozens of glowing eyes stared straight into the shot, unblinking, watching. The playback ended, leaving only static and the sound of waves outside. Back on the mainland, the survivors sat in a dim hotel room, curtains drawn tight, cameras packed away. No one spoke at first. The air buzzed with the hum of the minibar fridge, the silence heavier than the island's darkness. Carl finally whispered, "We have to tell someone. I want to know what happened." Jimmy stared at the floor, his face pale, eyes hollow. "If people see that footage," he said slowly, "they won't sleep again. They'll think it's fake, until it's too late." An NDA was drafted that same night, signatures scrawled with shaking hands. Lawsuits were threatened, contracts sealed. Officially, the island shoot had been canceled due to safety concerns. Unofficially, every surviving crew member carried the screams in their heads, echoes that surfaced in the quiet hours before dawn. Some claimed they still heard their names whispered in empty hallways. Others swore they saw figures watching from street corners that vanished when headlights swept past. No one returned to the island. No one dared. Months later, an editor tasked with archiving old files stumbled across a folder marked "Do Not Open." Against his better judgment, curiosity won. He clicked play on one of the raw clips. For a moment, it was just the crew laughing, setting up gear. Normal. Safe. Then, in the very last frame, standing just behind Jimmy, half in shadow, faceless, unmoving, was the figure, waiting.